Our next segment features candidates for Oakland County Sheriff. With us tonight are Vince Gregory and Barnett Jones. Can we wave so I can find, there you are. We will follow the same format we've been following all evening with 2-minute opening statement, 1-minute closing statement, and 2 minutes to answer the questions. We'll start with the opening statements, beginning in alphabetical order, and then reverse that for the closing statement. Vince Gregory, you'll be first. Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to have you here tonight. You can begin with your opening statement. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank the 11th Dems for hosting this forum. It's always nice to be able to get your message out. Again, my name is Vince Gregory. I'm a Marine and a Vietnam veteran. I served 30 years with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, 17 of those years as a union vice president and then president. So during that time as the union leadership, I negotiated contracts with the late Wayne County Executive Ed McNamara, County Executive Bob Ficano, then County Executive Warren Evans. After the 30 years with the Sheriff's Department, I spent 10 years as an Oakland County Commissioner, 2 years as a Michigan State Representative, and 8 years as a Michigan State Senator. I'm running for Oakland County Sheriff because I believe there should be much more visibility from the Sheriff's Department throughout all of Oakland County, not just a portion of Oakland County. Second thing is, within the Sheriff's Department, we must eliminate that glass ceiling so that women can get promoted the same as men to those ranks which make a difference in the department. And then third is community policing. I believe that we need the Sheriff's Department needs to be heavily involved in community policing. And by that, I mean involved with the community leaders, the church leaders, the business leaders, so that we will have some sense of feeling about how the community feels about the policing that the Sheriff's Department is doing in the communities in Oakland County. And with that, I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Barnett, 2 minutes.
Hello, 11th District. My name is Barnett Jones, and I'm a candidate for the Oakland County Sheriff. I've been in law enforcement over 40 years, 19 of those years with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, where I rose to the rank from deputy to the rank of captain. I was being trained by John F. Nichols to replace him. I didn't get the job, but I went to Sterling Heights Police Department as their chief. I was there for 6 years. I left there and I went to the Ann Arbor Police Department, where I was the police chief and the fire chief for almost 6 years. I went to Flint, helped the emergency manager, and from there I went to the Great Lakes Water DWSD Authority, where I'm now the Chief Security and Integrity Officer. I am the man to do the job. I have the training, the education, the experience, and the knowledge. And on day one, I can do the job as the sheriff. I have a platform that includes transparency, because I believe it is time for the citizens to know what's going on in the Sheriff's Department. I have a plan for inclusion, because Vince is correct. There has never been a woman promoted to the rank of captain. When I left there were 2 women that I trained that were ready and willing to go. But when I'm sheriff, I will promote those women. I believe in social justice reform. We need to do something about the cash bail. I also believe in community engagement. I have a plan for putting together a citizens advisory board that will reach out and change the way we do police work in the communities by bringing people together and giving them a voice in how we do the job. My name is Barnett Jones, and on day one, I can be the sheriff. I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm experienced, and I'm capable.
Thank you, Barnett. For your first questions, both of you come from different professional backgrounds. How will you utilize your unique experience to change past practices of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office? And we'll begin with Barnett.
Well, different practical backgrounds. I've been in law enforcement for over 40 years. So realistically, I worked at the Sheriff's Department, and it's a matter of leadership and vision and moving through your chain of command. You get your people in, you get them trained, you give them a vision, you give them a mission statement, and you bring them together as a team. You instruct them as a team. They have input, so they have ownership of what your vision and mission statement is, because they have participated in the process. That will give them the ability to turn around and push that back down through the organization. I have a plan for that also, because that is how you change the culture of a police agency. That is how you change the culture of any organization. Today, you have to give people a right to sit down and give you some input so they can provide you the input into the direction, the mission statement, the vision statement, and that is what I'll do to change the culture of the Sheriff's Department and change that organization. It is a good organization. It needs real leadership. It needs a person that is a law enforcement professional to push down the changes that we see in the street, the things that are going on, the COVID-19 environment, the pandemic, all of that needs leadership ready and willing to provide the necessary tools. You take the people, you invert the pyramid, you put the people at the top, and you, me, work for them. Give them the job, give them the tools, and then as the sheriff, I'll get out of the way. Empower those people to do the job that they can do, and as the sheriff, you would turn around that culture of that department and move it to a community-based, community-oriented, community-engaged operating Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Barnett.
Good question.
Vince, same question. I'll repeat it. Both of you come from different professional backgrounds. How will you utilize your unique experience to change past practices of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office? 2 minutes.
Well, I want to thank you for that question. In one way, we have a similar background in law enforcement, and I think that that really will be a benefit to all of the Oakland County residents, because we do have that. But I also have legislative experience in working with others, working across the aisle, being able to get things done. When I was in the state Senate, I was a part of a committee that was able to get Medicaid expansion done. So to be able to change a culture, I think that it starts with the leadership. It starts at the top, and as a leader of that group, you must be able to show and lead by example. And I think that by leading it by example, and from the experience that I've had within Wayne County Sheriff's Department as a leader of the union, and at that time, the Sheriff's Department was the largest Sheriff's Department in the county. I represented over 1,200 police officers in Wayne County. I led by example, and we did some things there to be able to move the needle, and Oakland County will be no different. I think these are challenging times, and I think that leadership, integrity, all of those things that people are looking for right now, those are things that I've had, transparency. Those are things that I've been doing for years for my career, both in law enforcement and both in the legislative arena. I think that at this point, people want to see some changes, and that's what I will bring to the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. And my experience on the 10 years on the commission to being able to make some changes with the commission. I think that those are the kind of things that people are looking for and want to see with the next sheriff.
Thank you, Vince. The next question. What experience have you had in developing and managing a budget? And we'll begin with Vince.
All right, that's a good question. And clearly, speaking of budgets, as I said, I was with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and I was the lead negotiator for the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, largest sheriff's department in the state of Michigan. And yet we sat down with the sheriff, and I did this for 7 years as a union president, sat across the table with the county executives. We had to put together our budget, and then the county put together their budget. We would sit down and formulate, we would come together and try to resolve our issues, outstanding issues, to come up with a mutual agreement, something that we both could agree to. At some times during our bargaining, during the year, some of the years, the Wayne County Sheriff's Department went through some trying times, times when they didn't have the money that they needed. At one point, we went 3 months without pay, and yet the union had to figure out a way how we will be able to sustain the officers and be able to help them. That's what leadership does, and that's how you as a union leader or a leader period will be able to do it. Now, as a legislator, as I indicated, when I was in both the House and the Senate, I was on appropriations for 10 years, and that was about setting the budget for the state of Michigan. I was a part of that budget setting process for 10 years. So for me, budget setting is not a big issue. But let me just say, though, I am not somebody that believes that I know it all. I'm the kind of person that will bring in some budget experts to help me with that, to be able to get the best out of the department, to make sure that we don't lose anything from the department, and yet we're able to fund all of those necessary items that we need to have. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Vince. Barnett, same question. What experience have you had in developing and managing a budget?
That is a good question. Very good question. In Sterling Heights, Ann Arbor, and now my current position, I oversee and develop the budget. I go through the planning process with the budget staff, and we put together a budget used on last year's budget analysis, forecasts, and we put that into place. The budget is a guidepost. You can look at the budget, you can prepare the budget, but you always have to also make adjustments and do encumbrances to those budgets. In the past, I've had the experience of managing budgets that ran from $20 to $30 million to $60 million a year. And my number one object is to stay within budget, because I can't stand going over the budget. That's necessary because there are budget people. With the Sheriff's Department, you have a budget manager, and that budget manager will assist the sheriff in how the budget is put together. The current sheriff's budget is 157.3 million, I think, for this current year, and it goes up about another $30,000, so it'll be about 160 million thereabout, and it includes $60 million to road patrol and $53 million to corrections, and then it's split between administration and technical services and support services and the sheriff's office itself. But it's about a $160 million budget, and I've got the experience to manage that, because no matter how big the numbers are, it's the same process and the same people sit down with you to make sure that you stay within budget. Thank you. This is a good question.
I'd like to take a question from the chat right now, and Barnett, we'll start with you on this one. How do you react to the principle of defund the police? How will you redo the budgeting to assign resources proportionately to mental health services, drug services, and many other community services for which the money currently goes to law enforcement? Barnett.
That is a great question, especially with what's taking place today. Well, we're assuming that, first of all, Oakland County is going to go to a defund status, meaning that they're going to tell you how many millions of dollars you have to remove from the budget through the defunding mechanism, because they're going to stand up the social workers and the medical care workers to start helping and assisting with the 911 calls. So what you do there is basically, when they take away the money from your budget, you begin the process of reallocating, reutilizing, reestablishing, reorganizing your department so that you can respond. There are three ways to change a police agency. You change it by reforming it, you change it by defunding it, you change it by dismantling it. Out there today, a lot of people are saying defund, and then they're talking about dismantling. A lot of people are saying defund, and they're talking about reforming. So if it happens in Oakland County, we first must have, I will sit at the table where everybody is to figure out exactly what they're talking about doing. And then we will adjust accordingly. If they remove money from the budget, then we will reorganize the patrol section, because that is where that will take place, so that the officers will still be able to respond. And my idea would be that we combine the social workers with the police officers to provide them safety when they're responding to those mental health problems and those narcotic problems and those children problems. And we will be there to help them, because it is not a safe environment. Law enforcement officers get killed in domestics. The social workers and the medical care workers are going to need someone there to protect them. We already do that with special teams. On the SWAT team, we have a combination of medical care workers and social workers embedded when we do a SWAT. That will be the same process. Thank you.
Thank you, Barrett. Vince, same question. How do you react to the principle of defund the police? How will you redo the budgeting to assign resources proportionately to mental health services, drug services, and many other community services for which money currently goes to law enforcement?
Right. Another good question. that's a big issue that's going on today that a lot of people are talking about. And you should know that when it comes to defunding, across this country, I think there's only been 2 cities in this entire country that's ever defunded, totally defunded. There's only been one that's totally defunded. And when they defunded the department, they brought in the sheriff's department to do the patrol. And then after the sheriff's department was there for about a year, they rehired the officers. They had the officers quit and they fired them. And then they ended up having them where they could apply for the jobs again, and they hired them back, and then they brought in a new department. I don't think that's what's going on. What most people are talking about, I think most people are talking about some ways where they can use some monies from the sheriff's department or police departments in order to be able to do some things. For instance, if you have police officers that are in the schools, patrolling the schools, maybe that budget needs to be reexamined. And there may be several other budget areas where we need to reexamine. I think the sheriff, in conjunction with the county commissioners, the county executive, we would need to sit down to go over those areas where we feel that we may be able to move some monies, but as long as we maintain the public safety, the safety part of the department, so that no resident would ever feel unsecure being in Oakland County. I think that what we would have to do, as I said, we'd have to sit down with some other people to see how they felt, what the county commission felt about it, and what the county exec felt about it, because they really have hands-on when it comes to the budget, and they can veto or not make any recommendations for it. But I certainly understand what a lot of people are talking about, but I do think that as the Oakland County Sheriff, I would be willing to sit down and talk with any and all parties to see in what areas they're talking about that we can make these changes, and to see what we could do to facilitate that and make sure that it does happen if it's possible.
Thank you, Vince. The next question is, how would you change the way in which the sheriff's office interfaces with the communities of Oakland County? And we'll start with Vince.
Oh, I think that at this particular point that the sheriff's department is not as visible as it can be throughout all of Oakland County. And I think one of the areas where you can change, certainly when you talk about visibility, is even events. The sheriff's department can keep up with events, parades, those different kind of things, and he can even make those at least to show up. We all pay county taxes, and those county taxes also go to the sheriff's department. And yet, if you don't ever see the sheriff, how is that? What does that say to you? So, to me, I think that there's a lot more areas that the sheriff, a lot of things that the sheriff can do to be involved in the communities. I think that, as I indicated, one of them would be involved with different events. But also, when I was with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, I lobbied, along with some other deputies, for secondary road fundings to be able to get the deputies in all the communities. Secondary roads would be like 10 mile, 11 mile, 12 mile, the mile roads. And with those kind of fundings, the deputies would have a role in even local communities without taking anything away from local communities. It would be an assist to the local communities. So for me, I would go back to Lansing, where I know a lot of people, and start the lobbying process for secondary roads. I know the governor looked at cutting some of the secondary road funding this past year, but I certainly would go back and lobby the governor to put the money back in there for secondary roads, so we would be able to expand our role as a sheriff to obviously to be able to protect our citizens and to make sure they get all of the services from the sheriff as they possibly can.
Thank you, Vince. Barnett, the same question. How would you change the way in which the sheriff's office interfaces with the communities of Oakland County?
On day one, I'm going to put together a community review board or a community advisory board. That will be citizens made up from the county that will be a part of the board by volunteer. I will have the unions present and members of my command staff. And we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about community engagement. We're going to talk about how we patrol in the communities. We're going to give them a voice in how we patrol their community, so that we are patrolling the community in a manner which makes them happy. We have no one size fits all in my vision. We have a bunch of different community engagements taking place all around the county. And in the areas where we are not the primary law enforcement agency, we already back up all of the existing police departments. We're there whenever they need to have an officer there. We're there for the parades and the functions. I've been there for those type of engagements in Southfield and in Oak Park, working their fireworks. So all they have to do is ask, and the sheriff, as sheriff, I would send my people down there as a resource for them. Because one of the things I also want to do is have a roundtable discussion with the sitting chiefs and figure out how we can expand our resources by training all of our people and preparing all of our people with the same equipment so that we can interface better and do the job as a team, not as just the sheriff's department, me, the sheriff, and you, the little guys, because that doesn't work. We have to be on the same standard, the same level to spread our resources around, to be prepared for any event anywhere in Oakland County. And that is what I would do as the sheriff, be a partner with the local communities and make sure that my people are involved in community engagement and we have a wonderful input from the communities and we design a community engagement policing program exactly what they need. That's a good question.
Thank you. Okay, we have, let's see, we'll look at our time here. We're right on time, Kent. Good, huh? We have actually one time for one quick question from the chat. This is from Barbara. She wants to know, if you were sheriff now, would you enforce the governor's executive orders? Why or why not? Barnett.
I can answer that question with one word. Absolutely. I raise my right hand. I'm sworn to protect and serve the people of the state of Michigan, the people of the United States, and the county of Oakland. As a law enforcement officer, it would not be the first time there would be something that maybe I didn't agree with. I've always done my job. Your job comes first. So as the sheriff, the governor puts out an executive order, it becomes law. It's been interpreted that way for years. Therefore, what she puts down is law. We would enforce the law in Oakland County if I'm sheriff. I wouldn't send it to the health department. My deputies would be advised to do their jobs. We utilize the law, the reports, the prosecutor's office, and let the prosecutor decide if that is a good crime, a good investigation, or not. But we would follow the law.
Thank you. Vince, your turn to answer that question. And it is, if you were sheriff, would you enforce the governor's executive orders? Why or why not?
Yeah, I certainly would. And regardless of who was the governor, I would certainly follow the governor's order. I think that what's happened so far, we've had 3 sheriffs that basically defied the governor and said that her order, they didn't see it as a justifiable order. So they had some issues with it and they spoke out about it. And to me, as a law enforcement professional, that's the last thing that you would ever want to hear from a law enforcement professional. If you're the chief, the sheriff in each county, people look up to you and they respect you. And if you don't respect the governor and you speak in terms of not following an order, then that means that some of these people may feel that they're free to do what they want to do. As a sheriff, you cannot pick and choose the orders that you will follow. If you're given an order, that is a legitimate order from the governor of the state of Michigan, and you are to follow that order and to do as you're supposed to do as a sheriff. You may not always agree with it, but you would never ever say you disagree with it in public or put that out, because as I said, that's one way to create chaos in a county, and as we know, chaos is one of the things that's going on right now throughout the country. So, as a sheriff, I would certainly follow the order and certainly have my officers do the same. Make sure that it filtered through the department and they all understood that this was a valid order and it was to be followed.
Thank you. So it's time for closing statements. You each have a minute, and we're going to start this time with Barnett.
Speaking to the voters, the next sheriff must have the experience to maintain and adjust to the COVID-19 budget that is going to have impact on the Oakland County Sheriff's Department and across the county. The next sheriff must have the experience, the vision, the wisdom, and the knowledge to run a large organization. I have that. I have run major law enforcement agencies in this state. The next sheriff must have the vision to put programs in place: transparency, inclusion, diversity, social engagement, community engagement, and social justice rules. We must change, and the next sheriff must be able to hit the ground day one as the sheriff. We must be able, I will be able to just jump into that office because I've been trained to be there. As the next sheriff, Barnett Jones, I can do the job day one. I have the education, I have the experience, I have the knowledge. John F. Nichols gave me that before he passed on, and I still have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barnett. Vince, you have a one.
Right. I want to thank the 11th District for hosting this forum. It's always great to have Democrats put something together to be able to get the message out. Everybody, you should know that I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've been a Democrat my entire life. I've served as the chair of the Southfield Dem Club and several other offices within that organization. Also was part of the Oakland County Dems for a while. And because of that, I got to know a lot of Dems, and because of that, I've reached out and got support from Mayor Vicky Barnett of Farmington Hills, Mayor Ken Cyber of Southfield, Mayor Marion McClellan of Oak Park, the current County Treasurer Andy Meisner, the current State Board of Ed person Tiffany Tilley, also some unions, the UAW, AFSCME, the Carpenters, and the 14th District. I hope that the 11th District will look at those endorsements and see the Democrats and join with them in supporting me for the next Oakland County Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. And I'd like to thank both of you, Barnett Jones, Vince Gregory, candidates for the Oakland County Sheriff. Thank you very much.